Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Collider Games channel. My name is Dennis Zen.
What's up, guys? It's your boy Dorian.
And we got a special one for you today. We got a hands-on demo of the very anticipated Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, the game coming out from EA, from Respawn. We got about 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah, two to 3 hours, I'd say.
Okay, 2 to 3 hours. Actual hands-on. We've seen the trailers. You know, Star Wars is something in the game. I mean, I think overall Star Wars right now is kind of like a hot topic of like controversy of like people loving the new films, people hating the new films. It's carried over to the video game world where people are hating on Battlefront and whatnot. Now, this game is less of it's not multiplayer.
Yep.
There are no microtransactions. There's no loot boxes. It's an action adventure game, and in the vein of what, like Uncharted.
Yeah, and pretty much Uncharted, and we're about to say Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed. Even, I mean, I've only played a little of God of War so far, but still like that type of game, right?
Yeah, pretty much, and that's what, like, hands going into it, I didn't really have any expectations as to what the type of gameplay would be like, but once we sat down and we went through the tutorials, it was very, like, it felt very familiar, like, and when we talked to the when we interviewed the people, they said, like, yeah, some of the God of War team is actually working on this game, and you could tell, like, it kind of had that feel, like, once you got the basic tutorials of how to use the Force and stuff like that, and you actually jump in, you're like, oh, this seems familiar, like, it feels like I've, not the game itself, but the controls, like, it just feels right in terms of how, like, this type of game should maneuver, like, when it comes to traversals and how you're fighting different enemies and stuff like that, it just feels, like, right. It's like, all right, this is dope. This feels like how it's supposed to feel. Like if you're going to be a Jedi fighting other things, this is how it should actually play out.
Yeah, we interviewed a couple of the developers, which was also going to be on our channel. But it's funny because I had asked them, I was like, even though Respawn is known for their first-person shooters, right? Titanfall 2, Apex Legends. This is a third-person action-adventure game. It still had some of the feel of it because you could run against the walls. Just had that tight control that we know from Respawn. But they actually said this kind of division or whatever department is like new just for this game.
Right.
So maybe there was just an overall kind of mandate to make the controls feel as smooth and as tight as the Respawn games, but also bring their own third-person perspective into it.
Yeah, and like going off the controls, it feels very realistic. Like, I mean, how realistic a Jedi should be. Like how when you fight a stormtrooper, most of the time, if you kill them once, or I mean, if you hit them once, slash them once, they're going to die because that's how they would die in real life or in the movie, like not in real life. But so I'm glad that they're like keeping that in, but still making it feel difficult enough to where, like, yeah, you're not just going up and slashing them one at a time, like you're just powering through them. Like they still make it kind of difficult. And about this game, like you can change the difficulty from if you just want to enjoy the cinematics of it, make it just feel like a story. You're just watching a story itself. You're not doing much action, or you can make it super. Oh, you're about to be the Jedi Master, which your boy is not going to be on. I'll probably be somewhere in the middle though. But for those unfamiliar, like the thing I appreciated most about it was I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan like you guys. Like y'all are eat, breathe, sleep Star Wars around here. But for me, I still was able to jump in and still had an amazing time. And I was somewhat familiar with the story, but for those like people that might just seen the trailer or something, can you explain like when this takes place?
So this takes place after Episode 3, which is Revenge of the Sith. This is after Darth Vader is born, and then the Emperor initiates Order 66, which is basically to purge the universe of all Jedi. So all Jedis are going to be hunted down and killed. And the main character, Cal, is a Jedi Padawan. So he's not a full-blown Jedi, but I guess, you know, they're going to try and kill him. And I guess the Inquisitors have been sent out to not specifically kill him, but like, you know, any Jedi or Jedi Padawans around, and they're following him. And so, you know, even what we played didn't reveal too much story, but we're not supposed to spoil any of the stuff that we saw. But in terms of you get to travel around to different planets and whatnot. I don't think that's a big secret, which is kind of cool because it reminded me of the old Knights of the Old Republic where you had the Millennium, or you didn't have the Millennium Falcon. You had a spaceship that was similar to the Millennium Falcon, and that would take you around to different planets. And this is the same case where you can jump around to different planets to pursue different missions. And so, I don't know. I was very impressed by what I saw, very promising. Because, yes, we saw the trailers and everything, but how does it deliver when you actually play it? And it definitely had that feel, of Uncharted where it's... You do have the melee combat, a lot of melee combat with the lightsaber, but then you have the platformer where you got to jump from here to there, solving puzzles.
And that's the coolest thing about it. Is like you're doing all the stuff like you would do in all these other games, but you have to use your force powers or use your lightsaber and stuff like that to actually go through with it. And I thought it was cool also because even though it's still this type of you're trying to figure out things, they don't make it super easy for you. Like you still have to use your map. That's one thing for sure on this is you have to make sure you're not constantly, but just checking your map to make sure you're going in the right spaces because they make it a very detailed map to really help you out. And that's probably going to be one of the key assets that you're going to use. So I thought that was cool. It's like you're actually having to depend on the map, having to check in on all these things while still trying to make sure like you're not getting killed. And it went from I'm excited for this game. Like, it's a Star Wars game. Like, I'm excited for it. But now this is definitely one of my most anticipated games because like you said, even though we got to play about 2.5, 3 hours of the game, we barely scratched the surface of it. And on top of like when we were playing in the game, they had certain things blocked off or we couldn't actually go through just to make sure like we weren't getting any real story details or spoilery things like that. So even within those 2 to 3 hours, there's still a lot more we have to explore through that. So there just seems like there's so much. It feels like a Star Wars galaxy, a vast galaxy for us to explore without having like to actually travel.
Yeah, I mean, we first did that tutorial or whatnot. I think I spent a good hour and a half just on this one level, and I didn't even finish it yet. And in terms of the puzzles and stuff, what I liked about it is it utilizes all the different abilities in order to solve them. Right, you need to use jumping, climbing, the force slowdown ability, the force push ability. Like you had to use all the lightsaber. Like you had to use all different skills in order to solve like certain puzzles, right?
Yeah, and I'm just excited about it because with that in itself, what we only got was just the beginning of his powers, or like we're still like early on. So as he grows, like they said, it's like this is a typical hero journey. So probably by like halfway through, by the end, we're going to have a lot more uses with the force powers, with the lightsabers. And they said that also there's going to be uses of the force that we haven't even seen before, and we got a little tease about that. Can't spoil anything, but they'll be able to there's other ways to use the force of that we haven't seen yet, so I'm pretty excited about that.
And they have a skill tree, right? They have a skill tree like something like Assassin's Creed, where you can get a certain skill and then you can deviate on how well you want to be able to do that skill or change up what that skill can do. Pairing with your lightsaber.
That's a big thing. Pairing, making sure, because
deflecting laser shots.
Yeah, dude. That, especially with the pairing, that leads into those slow cinematic combos. I know some people were like beforehand, like they were worried about how the combo was looking, but once you actually get to play it, it felt smooth, it was so fluid. And once you actually do get to do those super combos where it gets all cinematic and slow mo, and you're actually like going ham on them, it's ridiculous.
It's definitely awesome. More of a mix of a game, because I didn't finish the original Star Wars Force Unleashed, but I played a good few hours of it, and that seemed more like a wave fighter, right? You just go in and there's a lot of people coming at you. You use your force, you use your lightsaber, and you kill people. I think there might have been some light platforming on that as well, but this one just felt like a much more mix of different genres. And then they have the cutscenes to get you involved in the story. And I think that's the thing. Obviously, at least to me, the gameplay holds up. Let's see if the story holds up. Let's see if the variations of the skill sets can bring something new. I mean, that's the thing about playing a game, right? You want it to be fun,
Right.
and then you want it to grow as you proceed through the game so that you can do more interesting things as the game progresses,
Right.
both story-wise and gameplay-wise.
Right, and another thing I was just blown away by, just like the visuals themselves, how detailed they were, and that's another. We keep making this Uncharted comparison, but Uncharted, especially throughout the series, had some of the most beautiful set designs from the cave you're exploring in and all of that, and just from the little glimpses we got, there were some stills I was just like, damn, they really put their foot into this one, and it seems like they have a lot of faith into it just because of how detailed everything is, and I'm just like, all right, You're really delivering on all fronts, and so I'm just excited to see where this goes, because if this is going to be like a real hero journey like this, like we're going to actually see Cal develop and we're going to grow with him. I'm just hoping it's a promising end all.
Yeah, so it's coming on November 15th.
Yeah.
I want to say, like, I think this one is going to be the game that turns people around on. Right now, there's kind of like a little cloud over the Star Wars games in the world. You know, people like I mentioned before, complaining about certain things. I think this one will lift that cloud, at least temporarily, because it doesn't involve any of the things that people are complaining about. And I think so far, from what I've seen from the gameplay and hopefully the story delivers, I think this one will ultimately be some sort of kind of like redemption, or at least redeeming game for both EA and Star Wars in the video game universe.
Yeah, because I had Battlefront. I had both Battlefront, but it's like I didn't have any. I don't know, like
you never went back to play it.
Yeah,
a lot?
like I played like the first one, didn't even bother like really like getting into the second one. So it was just like not necessarily. I had fun, but once there's no like set story to it, like I didn't really have that feeling to like go back, especially because there's no like you don't get to like actually do what you're doing in this type of game. But this one, I think it not only is, if you're a Star Wars fan, you're going to enjoy this, but if you're just a gaming fan in general, like if you like, it has a bunch of genres mixed into one. So if you're an Uncharted fan, if you're an Assassin's Creed fan, I think all of those different genres mixing into this, like it appeases to a lot of people that I think it's going to work for on multiple levels.
Yeah, I think this one will be much more
universally
accepted. I played Battlefront 2, the campaign. I enjoyed it as well, but it doesn't have all the things that this one has that kind of will bring me in, right? So
yeah, so overall, I think EA has. Hopefully, and this is just us from the first couple hours. Like we actually have to like really get into it. These are just our first impressions, but I am pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed the game. Like if they didn't come and pull us off, like, hey, you guys got to go. Like I would have sat there for more hours just playing that, because it just felt like I was zoned in me like actually becoming a Jedi.
Also, the puzzles were challenging. I was like, I gotta solve this damn puzzle.
And also I do appreciate how like if you do die, like how they set it up. I don't know if I can explain it the right way, but how you like if you die, sometimes like you come. I don't know how to explain it. But
they make it so if you fall from like die from a jump, they give you a set amount of like, I don't know if it's like 5 or 6 times to do it before.
I think it depends on like your health. Like it takes off like more of your
so you can come back without doing the whole thing over. But if you like die in combat, you got to start from like a save point.
Yeah, sometimes like you get so far and it's like, oh, god damn it, you got to restart. But yeah, some of the puzzles were kind of challenging. I had to get. Did it ever get to a point where they were like a hint popped up? They're like, hey, you need help.
Yeah, there was one. Like, one time that I had to ask for
your boy needs help.
Yeah,
and the droid also BD1. Yeah, pretty dope.
Yeah. So I think it has a lot of potential. I think it's promising. I think, fingers crossed, this is going to be the one that I think people are waiting for.
Yeah, I hope so.
It's not quite the game that they originally were planning. Like this Visceral Games was going to do this. Like I think more it's similar to this, but more RPG and more like bounty hunter style. But I think this still follows into that vein.
Mm-hmm.
So all right, guys. That's what we thought. You can post your comments below. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Collider Games. Subscribe to our podcast feed, Collider Factory feed, for our games podcast every single week. And we'll probably be talking more about this on this week's podcast.
Yes, sir.
All right. See you guys later.